The rain fell heavily that night, the kind of storm that blurred everything into a haze, the kind that makes you doubt whether you're seeing clearly or if your mind's playing tricks. Detective Clara Hayes stood at the edge of a deserted alley, her boots sinking into the puddles forming at her feet. Her gaze was fixed on the body, her latest case. A man, around 40, dressed in a tailored suit, but with a face that was now just a twisted mask of pain. His chest was riddled with gunshot wounds, the blood still fresh, pooling beneath him like dark ink. The scene was eerily quiet. No sign of a struggle, no blood trail leading away. The only clue was a single playing card, a queen of hearts, folded into the man's hand. Clara crouched down, examining the body. A soft sigh escaped her lips. She had seen death, but this felt different. Something didn't add up. Her partner, Detective Leo Alvarez, stood off to the side, scanning the alley. He was tall, sharp-eyed, always trying to read the room before diving into the details. "I don't like it," he said, his voice low, barely above the sound of the rain. "It's too clean. No signs of a struggle. Whoever did this, they knew what they were doing." Clara nodded, but didn't respond immediately. Her mind was racing. The Queen of Hearts was no random card. She'd seen it before, a symbol tied to an old unsolved case. The notorious card killer, who had left similar cards at his crime scenes years ago. But they never found him, and the killings stopped just as mysteriously as they'd begun. "Think it's him?" Leo asked, as if reading her thoughts. Clara stood up, her eyes narrowing. "If it is, we're looking at something worse than we imagined." The next few days were a whirlwind of interviews, evidence analysis, and cold leads. Clara and Leo dug deeper into the man's life, finding that he was a lawyer named Evan Drake, well-liked by his colleagues, but with a history of shady connections to organized crime. As Clara sifted through the case files, a pattern began to emerge. The victims all had ties to a criminal underworld, people who knew too much, people who could expose the network. But there was no connection between them, no obvious link that tied them together, except for the card. Then, a breakthrough. Clara got her hands on a set of surveillance tapes from the night of the murder. The footage showed Evan Drake entering the alley, looking panicked, as if he was being followed. But then, a figure emerged from the shadows, an unexpected one. It was a woman. Clara replayed the footage, zooming in. The woman was dressed in black, her face obscured by a hood. She moved toward Evan and spoke to him for a few moments. Then the gunfire erupted. The woman stood over him, watching as he bled out. She didn't run. She didn't seem afraid. Instead, she did something chilling. She reached into his hand, and as he lay dying, she placed the Queen of Hearts into his palm. Clara's heart raced. Could this be the killer, or was she just a witness? Either way, she had to find her. Days later, after some intense legwork, they tracked her down. Her name was Natalie Winters, a former associate of Evan Drake's, and she had ties to the very same criminal organization that he'd once tried to betray. But that wasn't the whole story. Natalie was not just a hired gun. She was his daughter. It turned out that Evan had been blackmailing members of the crime syndicate, holding evidence of their darkest secrets. He'd been planning to flip on them, to save his own skin. But his daughter, caught between loyalty to her father and to the syndicate, had been ordered to silence him. And the Queen of Hearts? It wasn't just a calling card. It was a message, a final tribute to the game of life and death that both father and daughter had played their entire lives. A twisted reminder of how even the closest bonds could be broken by greed and betrayal. In the end, Clara and Leo were left with more questions than answers. Was justice really served, or had they just uncovered a new layer to the deadly game that had been set in motion long ago? The end. Or is it? The storm had passed, but the shadows of that alley lingered in Clara's mind. She had solved the case, but the deeper she dug, the darker the truth became. And as she stood at the edge of another rainy night, she knew one thing for certain. In this game, nobody wins.